Near the beginning of every semester, I usually ask my class, what is a designer? What is a design? What does it mean to design? The dictionary tells us that a design, or as a transitive verb, to design, is to create, fashion, execute, or construct according to a plan, to conceive and plan out in the mind, to have as a purpose, to devise for a specific function or end. As a noun, a particular purpose or intention held in view by an individual or group. A mental project or a scheme in which means to an end are laid down. A designer is one that designs. A designer is someone who plans. To design is to plan, and a design is a plan. Project 4 involves creating an ad based on a plan. This will show you how to create a plan for a page or an ad and the process of executing that plan. Project 4 shows you the design process as applied to an ad. This ad was designed, this ad was executed. This is the final appearance of the ad. How was it created? Well, it started with a concept, and then the concept had to be sketched out. And then the sketch had to be tightened up into a layout. And then ad copy had to be written that fits the ad. And then the ad copy and the design have to come together. This is a page from the Chicago Manual of Style, the style book for the University of Chicago Press. Most publishing houses and most advertising agencies have style books that control things like how they use the language, how they use type. Proofreaders' marks are how we in the industry communicate with each other about what needs to be done to type or what needs to be changed in type. Editors and proofreaders and creative directors would use these marks to determine how the type is to be set or how the type is to be changed after it has been set. This is the editor's markup of the copy from the copywriter. And this is marked up using those standard marks. Starting at the top, the headline is 46/36 Adobe Caslin Pro bold. What does that mean? 46/36 is 46 on 36. 46-point type on a lead of 36 points. Now, if this was 46 on 46, meaning the type size and the lead are exactly the same size, we call that set solid. So there's no space added between the lines of type. But this number is actually smaller than the type size. So what that means is that we're using less lead than the size of the type. In the industry, this is known as negative lead. So 46 on 36, negative lead, Adobe Caslin Pro bold. And then these three lines underneath these letters mean that those letters are capitalized. So the P, the I, the A, and the Y are all capitalized. The text is set 10 on 13, Adobe Caslin Pro. X25P4, that means by or on a measure of 25 picas and 4 points. The alignment is justified. There's no space, no paragraph space, or no space between the paragraphs, and no paragraph indents. Instead, we are identifying paragraphs with a 2-line drop cap in Adobe Caslin SB or semi-bold. We have subheads or call-out text for the paragraphs, depending on how you want to look at it, because this is going to be treated as a single paragraph. Put your fantasy on the road. This has a squiggly line underneath it. A wavy or squiggly line underneath type means that it should be in boldface. So this will be Adobe Caslin bold, whereas the rest of this paragraph would be just Adobe Caslin Pro regular or a book face. There's a little squiggle here. And what this means, this is a lot of these marks are pictures representing an action. It's like a diagram. It's like take this stop out and toss it. Periods are generally called stops. Actually, a period is a full stop, a comma is a stop, an exclamation point is a stop. We don't call it a stop, we call that a bang. Question marks are stops. If you read David Ogilvy's book, Ogilvy on advertising, you would find that he didn't like to see periods in headlines. A period, a stop, tells the reader to stop. And if you write a headline for an ad, you want them to be drawn in by the headline and keep reading, so you rarely see stops in headlines. Sometimes they're used for a dramatic effect. So delete, and that occurs at the end of every one of these subheads or callouts, delete the stop. Bottom of this first paragraph, luxury car was capitalized by the copywriter. The editor says, make it lowercase. Slash through it, LC in the margin. Another subhead, bold, remove the stop. Down here, we've got a single underscore, which means it should be italic, and a squiggly line, which means it should be bold. So free should be bold italic. We have numbered paragraphs, and these are set what we call with a hanging indent, meaning the first line goes out and the rest of the paragraph goes in. And there's little M's in boxes here, and that means that this indent here should be one M space in from the margin of the rest of the paragraph, and then the rest of it is in 2 M's. So the way we would do this is a 2M indent applied to all of this text, and then a -1M indent for the first line. So we bring the whole thing in 2 M's, and then we come back 1 M for the first line of each paragraph. There's another little box in here with an N in it, and that means that there should be an N space between ITC and a luxury, between deductible and as, between increases and always, there should be an N space. And N space is half of an M space. Over here, there's 4 dots underneath. There's a dot underneath each letter, basically, and a line through it. Well, this was going to be deleted. They put a line through it, said, we're going to delete this, and then they changed their mind. A dot underneath these means applying to this stet. Stet is Latin for let it stand. So this does not get deleted. It was going to be actually changed to keep instead of hold, keep. And they said, no, stet, leave it as hold. In here, insert a comma. Again, bold subhead, delete the stop. You have to read this stuff sometimes and make sure that they're communicating in a way that people can understand them and saying the things they're supposed to say. Sophisticated engineering demands that respect, care, and experience provided by our skilled technicians. Well, obviously we want an S inserted there because they should be skilled technicians rather than killed technicians. In addition to maintenance and repair, we can preform? No. This is a transposition. This should be perform, EPA.DOT conversion of imported automobiles. Well, that's interesting. That's a typo that no one caught. Actually should be imported automobiles, plural. Let our service department help preserve your investment and keep you on the road. Again, subhead, we need the word a added here. We have another transposition here. And then what in advertising parlance is known as the signature. The signature is the T&S Motors logo, and then 3 lines of type, a descriptive phrase, Auto Aircraft Financing, Leasing and Brokers, Inc., and the address and the phone number. And these should be Adobe Caslin bold and semi-bold, or semi-bold and bold. And that's bold for the first line, semi-bold the middle line, and bold for the phone number. This will be 10 on 13. The logo, you're going to have to create using 48-point Caslin bold, 36-point Caslin bold italic for the ampersand, and 20-point Caslin bold small caps tracked loose for the motor. I'll talk to you about how we do that when we get to that. So that's how the text has been marked up. Here is the designer's layout, and this tells us there should be a 1 pica margin at the top. Then there's a 2-point rule, rules 2-point, and then the headline starts 38 points below the top margins. The rules above and below the headline are 2-point rules. Any horizontal line in typography, or actually any line, horizontal or vertical, is referred to as a rule. We have lines of type, which are where the letters are. Lines that you see, physical lines, we refer to them as rules. No strokes on the add border or bende, so there's no stroke on the outside here. There's no stroke on the bende. Bende is another term for like a pattern of dots. In this case, it's a half tone of whatever the resolution of the ad is. Head 46 on 36 Adobe Castlin Pro bold, centered, RO. RO reverse out, meaning that the headline will be white against the gray background of the bende. 2-line drop caps, Adobe Castlin Pro semi-bold, reverse out. Text is 10 on 13 Adobe Castlin Pro on a measure of 25 picas and 4 points. Justified first line of each paragraph is quad left, or those will be treated as part of the paragraph, but they will be flush left, whereas the rest of the paragraph is justified. And there's a little trick to accomplishing that, and I'll show you that when we look at this in InDesign. Numbered list callouts, 10-point Adobe Castlin bold, follow with an N quad. So that's this stuff in bold here. Reverse out the logo. There's a 1 pica margin left and right, 1 pica, 1 pica, 1 pica at the top also. The bottom we don't care about. I'd say, yeah, there should be a 1 pica margin. We don't need to run the car right to the bottom. You don't want your car running into things. Align logo with address block. So however high these 3 lines are, that's how high the TNS logo should be. TNS motors should be the same height as the 3 lines. 16 points here refers to from the last baseline of the last paragraph to the first baseline of the signature should be 16 points. Now the lead for this is 10 on 13, so somehow we have to add 3 points in there. We'll talk about how we do that when we get to the InDesign layout. 20% tint behind the text ends at the car. So you actually want to end that behind the car. It comes down to the car and ends right in here somewhere, right behind the middle of the car, so that we don't see the gray down below the car. So that's what the designer has in mind. This is what either the creative director or the editor had in mind for how the type was to be set. And now it's time to set the type. I've got InDesign open. Command N, new document. Now, in your instructions, it says that this ad is 5 inches wide by 10 3/8 inches deep. And notice I've got 10.375 here. It helps to know your fractions. Bad things happen when you do it some other way. Like for instance, if I said 10 and 3/8, it actually does some strange math and turns that into 12 7/8 inches. If I do 10 hyphen 3/8, it gives me 9 5/8 inches, but the correct dimension is 10 3/8 inches, or 10.375. I'm going to switch this back to picas, which is usually the default measurement system in InDesign when you first open a document. I've only got 1 column. I don't have to worry about gutters. And then I've already set this to a 1 pica margin. The default for any document when you start fresh is going to be like a 1/2 inch, and that's obviously a bad plan. A 1/2 inch or 3 picas, that would be a bad plan for this ad layout. So it's a 1 pica margin all the way around. Bleeds and slugs, we don't need them. It doesn't apply to this. If this were actually being sent out to a publisher, I would probably add a slug area, maybe at the top or the bottom, where I can put an indication of any technical needs for this particular ad, or preferences of ad placement, or the phone number of the account executive or the client, or publication date. Maybe it goes in a particular month. So that's all I need to do here. Here's my new document. In my layout, I need to hit some certain locations for things at the top. I'm going to go to my master page and put this in here. Notice that I set this up as a 1 single page document without facing pages, so I just have one master page. Okay, I have a 1 pica top margin. I know the gray is going to go to the top of the page, but that first horizontal rule or paragraph rule above the headline is going to be at the 1 pica margin. 38 points down from that, or 50 points from the top. Actually, I'm going to change my rulers to points. 50 points from the top should be the first baseline of my headline, and then 36 points below that, which I probably don't actually need to put a mark in for that. But what I do need is a guide at 9 picas. I'm going to change this again to picas and set that guide at 9 picas, because I know my first baseline for my first paragraph has to fall there. Okay, I think, and actually I don't need these guides going way out here, so I'm just pull this into my document and make sure that that's at 4 picas, 2 points, or 50 points.